life today. I'm going to make the worst possible decisions I can. I'm going to see how bad I can mess up my life and the people I love and everybody else around me. But if you've ever had teenagers or been around teenagers or young people, you look at them and you're like, gosh, you could not have messed up your life.
And I applaud you for your vulnerability. You said, I know how to make money. I don't know how to, I think it was.
No, I know how to earn it. I don't know how to make it.
Yeah, you know how to earn it. You don't know how to make it. So I want you to
for shared challenges, looking for things that are shared desires or things that are both important to the other company, but in.
All right, welcome to Checkmate, the podcast. My esteemed and wonderful strategic partner, Dr. Brian Kent. How are you doing, Brian?
Doing fantastic today, Ken, and welcome, Robbie, to another adventure as we go for the next 30 minutes with you to just see what kind of strategies we come up with.
Who knows?
Well, I think everyone's going to know pretty soon. So, Robbie, not everyone may know you, and there's 8 billion people in the world. So we're trying to help people really become more abundant with their strategies in business, but more importantly, enjoy life more. And that's the business or personal hack that you put together. So tell the world a little about you. And actually, Brian, why don't you give a little background of how you know Robbie?
Absolutely. So Robbie and I have worked together on and off for about the last 9 to 10 years. Both internationally and nationally. And I've just seen her look at the world in a little different way for a lot of reasons, where she looks at things with a second, third order effects, trying to figure out geopolitical problems. And as we were looking at the guest list to add to Checkmate, I just thought that her point of view or the way she looks at things might be an interesting person for you and I to talk to. And so that's what we know about Robbie today. We'll let her tell us more.
Brian, since you've always picked home runs, let's have her share who she is.
All righty. Take it away, Robbie.
Well, my name is Robbie Harris. I'm originally from a small southern town in southeastern Virginia. And I grew up in a very conservative Southern Baptist home. And this is important for my sort of origin story, life story, how I got to where I am. And I initially wanted to be a missionary. And I was going to go out and change people's minds, work in difficult areas, and got married very young. And then started grad school at Georgetown and was in their Arab Studies program. And this was before September the 11th. So it had nothing to do with the war. It had nothing to do with our global war on terror or anything like that. And I went to work in a bar. And I had never been in a bar before I applied for a job in a bar, which is kind of crazy. But what was interesting was suddenly being around people who weren't like me. And I had actually kind of grown up as, it was a small minority, but a minority in my schools, where I grew up, and constantly learning about other people and how they see the world and how they think. And as I said, I was wanting to be a missionary. And I quickly realized that at 23, 24, I had no idea what I was talking about, had never experienced the world, and that I needed to drop that idea really quick about telling other people how to live their lives, because I was struggling to figure out how to live mine. And so I ended up going to Syria to study for a year, and I lived with the refugee family, and I learned a lot there. And then that was on a U.S. government fellowship. And then I ended up in Iraq after I graduated, working in Iraq for on and off for 20 years and in other conflict affected zones. And I had the great privilege, probably after, I don't know, maybe it was 2008, I think it was. I found a mentor. I had no idea. I mean, like, I knew I was going to work in the Middle East for a long time, had always wanted to do that, had been traveling. I had been to 6 of the 7 continents by the time I was 21, and just loved traveling, loved learning new things and meeting new people. But my mentor had a really interesting approach to problem solving and conflict resolution. And I would say on a global scale. And for him, all conflict was a social change problem. And his name is Dr. Dana Eyre. And looking at conflict from that perspective requires 2 things. It requires that you understand how interconnected everything is. That if I push here, what's the second and third order effect? It's going to push over here. And then how is that going to come back where I'm working? And I work in strategic behavior change. And so it really requires understanding what's affecting someone's choice to do something. Because, I always say nobody wakes up in the morning and says, gee, let me go out and I'm not going to use swear words on this call, but gee, let me go out and screw up my life today. That's really what I'm going to do. But if any of you have children who are teenagers, you look at their decisions and sometimes you think, my gosh, that's exactly what you did.
The break up there.
Oh, I'm here. Not sure where that went. I
Yeah.
didn't do anything. Sorry.
It was too strategic. She zipped out and she zipped back. She had to solve a problem.
I think there was that was conflict. That was the world pushing back.
Like, no, we don't want to know.
So repeat that part real quick.
Yeah. So nobody wakes up in the morning and says, gee, let me go out and really mess up my life today. I'm going to make the worst possible decisions I can. I'm going to see how bad I can mess up my life and the people I love and everybody else around me. But if you've ever had teenagers or been around teenagers or young people, you look at them and you're like, gosh, you could not have messed up your life more if you intended to. And to you or to me, that might seem like a very irrational decision, but I guarantee you, if you understand how they form value, what they assign meaning to, not just what something is, but what it means, you'll understand their decision. And it's really important in what I do, which is behavior change strategies. If you want to change someone's behavior, you have to understand why they're making the decision in the first place. But the second principle, so there's the interconnectedness of things. And the second thing is you have to really know yourself and why you make the decisions that you make. And this is something I think that people miss out on a lot. They always say, oh, well, this thing keeps happening to me, or I can't get my business going, or this and this. And I'm like, well, is it a one-off or is it something that happens consistently? Because if you don't understand why you're making the decisions that you're making, really understand and acknowledge the good and the bad parts about, I say bad, I don't really think any part's bad, but really what's feeding into that decision, you're not going to understand why and how anybody else makes decisions.
Right.
So, yeah. So that's a bit of I worked in Iraq on and off for 20 years, worked for USAID and set up some of their offices in the Middle East, and then started a business based around using communications, whether that's Facebook or face-to-face or offline as well as online, and then activities implemented on the ground to overlay one another so you can talk to people, then they get the chance to embody the change, and then it grows and amplifies and builds a virtuous cycle to create sustainable behavior change. And that's what I do today.
And you were born where?
A tiny little town called Suffolk, Virginia.
Okay. And how close is that to DC?
It's about 3.5 hours.
Okay, so real close.
Well, it used to be 3.5 hours. I think now it's more like 4.
Yeah, I got you.
Traffic.
So you've been to 6 of the 7 continents. So you moved from Virginia to Antarctica, I'm guessing, right?
No, I didn't go there. I don't like being cold, Ken. I can't stand it. It makes me angry. And so I try not to make important decisions when I'm cold because I get very angry.
Well, I know Brian's biting at the bit to ask you the big business strategy, but I want to ask you, what drew you to the conflict part?
It's funny. I'm a child of the Cold War. And for some reason, I remember being as young as 5 years old, and maybe it's the Red Dawn movies and everything else and the Left Behind. But I was always curious about war and what it was like. And I've also spent most of my life in I can be very conflict avoidant, and it has not always served me. And I think sometimes, I know sometimes the thing that we're unable to do in our own lives, we externalize it and do it for work.
So, Brian, this is so off the path, and you are the first one to ask the business strategy, but I'm just, as a human behaviorist, I just am completely like exploding with questions. So
Ask away.
I'm going to only ask one more, Brian.
All righty.
And then I want to go to you. All right. Because the book is about one business strategy, one personal hack. But there is a page or two, and we want to fill it with the juice. And what is it that causes someone either one to want conflict or two be so, I guess, pent up with anger that they want to cause the demise of the world or humanity? Do you have any answers to that?
I have some thoughts on it. I don't know if they're answers. I think
Thoughts are good.
I think one is a lack of boundaries.
Hmm.
And it's fascinating. This has come up in conversations 2 times in the past 24 hours. So I think it's a message. It's either for me or for other people. But what I find in people like myself who are recovering people pleasers or codependents or however, people who really work themselves to the bone to try to make sure all the plates keep spinning. When someone's about to drop one, you reach, you pick it up, you try to do. It's because one, you have no real boundaries. And so by doing all of this, you're keeping everybody at bay.
Hmm.
And two, because they don't have to ask you for anything. As long as you're picking up what they drop before they even ask it and you're doing these things, they don't have to ask you. But two, you don't have to be vulnerable because when I have a boundary and I tell you I don't like something, you then have to, it's your choice how you respond to that. And you can say, you're going to meet me where I am. You can say, screw you, I'm still going to do the thing anyway. And then I have a problem because then I have to decide what to do. Or what's going to happen is you're going to say, oh, I didn't know that was an issue. I'm going to meet you where you are. And then actually our relationship is stronger. But if you're terrified of the conflict, then, and a lot of that's because maybe as a child, you weren't, for whatever reason, you knew that you needed to fit in and be the thing that everybody needed around you because children are super smart. And I say children, I mean very young children. And when we don't get the needs that we don't get our emotional and physical needs met, we will do anything to get them met because there's something instinctual in us, I believe, even from an infant that knows we cannot survive without an adult in our life.
So
So I
for
was just saying, so most empathetic people learn from I mean, I'm not 100% sure it's people are talking about, oh, I'm an empath, I'm an empath. I'm like, you probably are, but you were also probably abandoned somewhat as a child on some level. And so you figured out all the cues so you could address all of them and be safe.
so from a clarification on an extra question, Brian,
Mhm.
clarification. Abundance versus scarcity, worthy versus not worthy. Are we in that?
Absolutely. If you have an abundant, well, I don't know that they're necessarily correlated,
I
but
agree.
if you have an abundance mentality, there's a lot less zero-sum fear-based politics.
Hmm.
And I say politics, I don't mean like global politics, but I mean individually.
Personal.
And
Yeah.
so if
Yeah.
I'm not afraid that if you have, I won't have, and I know that there's enough to go around, then I don't have to hoard and I don't have to go like this.
Right.
And I also think your question about why some people want to tear the world down, I think if you look at a lot of people who are like that and you go back into their childhood, and I mean, I don't actually don't mean on the parent side, but there's a lot of bullying and a lot of, to your point, worthy and unworthiness where we feel like we're not worthy, we're not accepted. And so therefore, our self-esteem keeps getting lower and lower and lower and lower. And then there's this rage against the people or type of people who created this for us and to which we were unable to respond in an appropriate way, in a way that protected
Hmm.
us and nobody else did. And so then we come back. Trauma that is not transformed is transferred.
Right. And I can't wait for Brian to ask this question, but what a dynamic world if people felt abundant and they co-create versus terror.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Well,
had
I
someone
jump in
ask,
for that too, right? Every time Robbie and I are together, I think the world is, I got a glass half full and we can share it with everybody.
Right. Right.
And if we can't spill a little bit out on them, I say, well, let's just wait a little bit and see what happens.
it's true. And I think, most times like in global conflicts, and you can pick any of the ones and it someone asked me one time, and maybe if you don't want me to mention this on this podcast, you can say so, but they asked me about the Arab-Israeli conflict. And I said, honestly, I don't know the answer to that. But what I do know is both sides are severely traumatized for different reasons at different times. And when we don't address that trauma within ourselves, and we are fractals of our community, and our community is a fractal of us, when that's not addressed, it metastasizes, it grows to a community level, it grows to a state level even. And we will then, it comes out because it has to go somewhere. Energy has to go somewhere. And when it is not resolved, if it stays inside of us, it gets twisted up, I think, into addictions and other sort of behavioral disorders, or it erupts out and destroys things. So
Brian, I will You,
Sorry, I talk so
no, no,
much.
you're
I
so
get
no,
so
you're so
excited.
good. No, you're so
No,
good.
Ken just wanted one question with 15 subparts.
Yeah, subparts. And by the way,
Back to school with Rodney Dangerfield. He had one question with 46 sub answers.
and by the way, I'm going to yield what I want to say so much, Brian, because I don't want to be labeled that way.
No, I mean, but again, as you can see, Ken, I think Robbie's a great. I mean, this the thought process and just people just would want to listen and talk about things like just like she and I do when we're talking about world problems, financial problems, or just interpersonal
We come at them
problems.
from very different opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
And we are truly blessed to be able to have a very good discussion and try to see it from both sides, which is what we want everybody to do in life, right? So, all right, Robbie. So, out of all of the build to the things that make you think, if you had to say the one business strategy that has been successful for you, what would it be?
Well, Brian, I've had this conversation. I don't know how to make money. I know how to earn it. And it's something that I envy very much about you. But anyway, that's something I'm working on in my personal life and how my inside is shaped. But anyway,
so the answer was to that was you need to learn how to make money, not just work for money. Was that the strategy?
Well, that's the thing. Well, no, I said, you asked about a business strategy. I said, well, it's not going to be about how to make a bucket load of money because I'm still working on how to make, not just earn it. So I'll say that up front. But what I will say, the second thing that I've learned, that probably the biggest thing that I've learned from a practical standpoint, if you're going to go into business with anybody, plan your exit first, and make sure and kind. Brene Brown says this, clear is kind. Again, it gets back to the boundaries, setting up what your boundaries are, both with your staff and with your partners and with your clients, and being very, very clear about what is and is not on the table, what you can and you can't do. But, and this isn't a whole lot different from what I've said already, sorry, but it gets back to knowing who you are. What are your non-negotiables? And what I found is that for me personally, every time in my life I've thought I've known what I was going to do, life laughed at me and said, yes, not really. Yeah, this is great. And then something major happens and it all turns on its head. So the biggest flex I have is flexibility and learning how to see myself and find out, okay, what can I own in this disaster or this failure that just happened? How did I get here? What is mine to own? And therefore, I know what my options are. Everything in life is a choice. Everything except for death. People say, oh, I have to pay taxes. No, actually, you don't. You pay them because you don't want to go to jail. And I think, again, in terms of business strategy, it's owning your choices and owning your options, because when you own the things that you can, I mean, like, we don't get to pick our options, but we get to make our choices. And when we blame someone else for our failures, when we blame circumstances for our failures, it prevents us from actually overcoming them and being successful in the future.
So three things. One, that was way too long of an answer for a concise on a card.
Sorry.
That's number one. Number two, if taxes are optional, I think death is too, because I think that how you take care of yourself extends the degree of which your death will surmise. And then number three, you said something in the beginning, and I applaud you for your vulnerability. You said, I know how to make money. I don't know how to, I think it was.
No, I know how to earn it. I don't know how to make it.
Okay, you know how to earn it, you don't know how to make. So I want you to dial in to concise what would be on a playing card. And for instance, if you know how to earn it, what is that tap? What is that access point to earn? Can we do that?
Find something, yeah. Find something that you love and be the best at it.
Find something you love and be the best at it. So it is potentially a strategy. How do you find out what you're best at? Or we want to dial into something that's kind of not necessarily earth shaking, but that is an epiphany of, oh, now I get it. And by the way, we can correct this later. Think about it. We can even come back to it in the show if you want to. But what you gave us was a little long to put in a card. And also, so the main part is, who are you? What's your business strategy? What's your personal hack? And then what are 5 trivia questions? So I'm going to go to personal strategy because in a way, that's personal what you just said. Find out what you love, right? That is actually more personal, I think.
It is, but for me, they're one and the same. I can't spend a lot of time doing something I don't enjoy or I don't believe in. And so I couldn't spend 40 hours a week doing something that just to pass the time to make money. It wouldn't work.
So, Brian, since you know Robbie a bit, why don't we work on a strategy together? Why don't you help with what you've known? Where's the business strategy, Brian? Help bring that to light.
I think the business strategy that I see Robbie make is like when she first started, it's look at the problem and figure out, as you said, what are the cause and reactions so you can try to make the best decision possible.
And as a second, Robbie, you have discussed conflict. When you understand conflict, you actually understand resolution. If you understand resolution, you probably understand a degree of how to accelerate abundance. Is that in a vein?
I think maybe, but I also think in terms, you have to understand your relationship to abundance, which is tied into your perception of your self-worth and what you deserve to have.
Right.
It's funny you should say that. In a recent documentary piece I was in, that was one of the questions about how do you know you're successful? And I said, well, successful is an individual rating. Because some people, like they said, well, when did you realize you're successful? I said, I don't. Because every day I'm continuing to improve myself and continuing to be better. So my success scale continues to climb, where some people can meet a plateau. And I think that's part of knowing you and knowing where you're going.
Yeah. I mean, if you believe in the law of attraction or any of the woo out there, we don't attract what we want, we attract what we are.
Yes.
And if you're shaped like this, you're going to attract this. And then if you're shaped like this on the inside, this has either got to shift to this, or you're going to eventually attract this, and this has got to go away. And so when people tell me, oh, well, this isn't working, I can't, or this happened and I failed, I'm like, well, what in you likes it? There is always a payout. If it's consistent and recurrent in your life and you tell me you don't like it, my question is always, what do you like about it? And what is your greatest fear about having the thing that you want?
Yep. So now let's revise this. You have a personal and a business strategy. Let's go business first. What would be the business base? And by the way, it can be a degree of personal, but what is the abundance factor? Because abundance is business in a way. It is also personal.
It's energy. Yeah. I don't understand the question, Ken, I'll be honest.
Okay, so I'm asking if we can differentiate all the things you said that have kind of a blend of both into abundance for business, abundance for life. Like, what would you say that would be strategic in those two?
Very good question.
We can dial in with your transcript, but
clarity.
Yeah.
Clarity.
Okay.
Seriously, clarity about what you want. You're not going to make it. You can't, whether it's abundance for your business or your life, if you're not clear about what you want, it's not going to happen.
Okay. And then clarity about what makes you happy, maybe.
Yeah. I think it's more about joy. Happiness comes and goes. Happiness is happenstance. But what really, again, lights your fire? What brings you that satisfaction and that sort of satedness of that was good. That was real good.
I like what she said, Brian, about happiness comes and goes, but joy. You know, she's going to love Barry Shore. I'm going to introduce you to my mentor, Barry Shore. His nickname is the Ambassador of Joy.
No, fantastic. Love that.
I guess I want to dig just one little layer deeper. There's conflict between two countries. There's a conflict between two businesses that are stopping abundance from happening. What would be a strategy to alleviate that, but also to cause collaboration and abundance for both?
So, first of all, there's a key principle that I think is really important to understand, and it's that it's not what I think about you, it's what I think you think about me that determines how I engage with you and how I respond to you. And so often when we set out to solve these conflicts between nations or between people, it's done from the perspective of, well, we just need to tell them that this is what this really is.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, no, that's not going to work. We just need to tell them how bad this is. I'm like, they just saw people get their hands chopped off and their heads cut off. I'm pretty sure they know how bad it is, and they don't want to talk about it anymore.
Right.
What we need to do is shift. So if you've got two companies, understanding what they think the other thinks about them and why they're engaging in that type of behavior. Because if you understand how what they think the other person thinks about them, then you'll understand their behavior more. And then looking for the complementarities, looking for shared challenges, looking for things that are shared desires or things that are both important to the other company. But in this perspective of lack, if we think there's not enough to go around, what's I need it so you can't have it. I work in West Africa, and one of the issues is between farmers and herders, because the herders bring their cows through, they trample on the fields, the farmers get upset, climate's changing, there's less rain, now their few meager crops are gone, and everybody starts fighting and killing one another. Maybe not everybody, but it happens. And in reality, the manure from the cows feeds the crops, and then the leftover bits from the crops would feed the cows, and they both benefit, but they both think they both think the other hates the other. Anytime something even is a hint of anger, they respond, they over respond, and yet they're so interdependent. We all are.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful. So, Brian, I think we got it. We're going to dial in on that, and we're obviously sending you the transcript so you can see what we did. But I love what you said. And by the way, there's so many layers of brilliance here. We're just trying to find obviously the one that would cue someone in. So,
I'm sorry, I don't have really good sound bites.
no, you're not. You can't apologize because you have too many sound bites. That's the issue.
She's a big thinker. She can't get it down to 2 words.
I know. So we're gonna have some fun here. We're gonna go to trivia, but I just want to make sure. Is there anything else you want to say about a personal hack before we go to trivia?
Personal hack?
Yeah, like something that makes your life better personally.
Yeah. Try not to lie to myself, because otherwise that shadow side comes and bites me in the ass every time. And I do not like what happens afterwards.
Gotcha. Well, this has been a really enjoyable conversation. It can happen in a very short period of time from a strategic standpoint. And we want to do 52. And wow, I'd love to have you on my show too. I mean, this is really cool. Brian?
Anytime.
Woohoo. All right. So we have 5 questions that are trivia. And Brian, would you like me to start that or not?
Absolutely, start the first one because I know the answer.
Don't use the same 5. Come on.
All right, here we go. First question. What book changed your life?
The Alchemist.
So Brian thought for sure you were gonna name his.
I had an angel meet me on a plane and tell me about the book, and then I bought it at Kramer's downtown, probably about over 20 years ago, and it revolutionized my life.
Oh, The Alchemist. That is a very common answer, so I think there's something to it.
I also like this one, Rumi, Soul Fury. It's about friendship, because I think friends are really super important, and I love mystic poetry. So there we are.
Great. You know what, Brian, if it's okay with you,
let's do both.
We're going to show 2. She took
right.
it out of the water. She blew it up.
2 for 2. 2 different reasons to have a good book, right?
All right, your turn, Brian.
Okay. What movie do you like?
Oh my.
Or at least one you want to tell us the name of.
I will say one. It's not a very common known one. I like the movie Black Snake Moan with Christina Ricci and Samuel L. Jackson.
That is a unique answer.
If nobody's ever seen it, the blues soundtrack in it has got Samuel L. Jackson, and he sings. I'm not sure if he plays. Some people would, anyway, certain people will have problems with this movie for various reasons. And that's all right. It's just controversial, but I love how accurately, in some ways, it portrays some social situations in more rural southern areas of the country, but also how important it demonstrates that being grounded in ourselves is. And I'll leave it at that.
So, Brian, I'm going to ask a question that we don't normally ask, but
Okay.
this is being guided from the strategic gods, as it were. Here we go. So, Robbie, to have a less conflicting world, a book that you would recommend parents share with their children to kind of give them the right juice. And here's a little cue. I wanted to ask you earlier, and I said I will yield to Brian. It was Dr. Seuss, Sneetches. Sneetches, stars and without, is kind of a thematic way of having a zero sum, right?
I love it.
So what children's book would you recommend for kids to have a better mindset for either resolving conflict or actually not having to deal with it?
Goodness. I'd have to, I can't think of I think it's a book called What to Do with the Problem.
Yes. And yes, that's a great book.
Yeah. And he's got another one,
Yes,
What to Do with an Idea.
The Idea, yeah. One of the best books. I mean, it's three of them, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what the third one is, but I like What to Do with an Idea and What to Do with a Problem.
Yes. And I can't remember. My son got all three books because I couldn't believe how good they were. And he's a better person for it.
Yeah. I mean, it talks about talking about your problems. And I think we stigmatize so much. We don't want to talk about that we have problems. And yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. That is a great series. Okay, so I'm going to do this right now. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Here we go. So we're going to get this guy. We're going to go live right now for a second because Brian, I want you to see this too. This is absolutely brilliant. Amazon, What to Do with an Idea.
Fantastic.
And going backwards, this is the author, Kobe, and it is What to Do with a Problem, What to Do with an Idea, and then last, What to Do with a Chance. So, by the way, God bless you for that, man. Isn't that really it? I mean, that's be an entrepreneur, to be a leader, and also to be someone that actually shifts the world. That's actually said. Yeah, wow. All right, Brian.
Alrighty.
I got a mic drop. I got a question drop right now. But boom.
Okay, and you mentioned a gentleman earlier that was your mentor. I'm not really sure you put him here in this category, but who would be a hero? But if you had an opportunity to meet him, take him to dinner, just maybe you haven't met him before, somebody you want to spend some time with.
I love Dolly Parton. She's my hero. I have a picture of her in my study on my wall. I love her music, but more importantly than that, she's so authentic.
Yes, she is.
Anybody who can initially, turn down an offer from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame because she says she doesn't deserve it. And they're like, no, you really should take it. She's like, fine, I'm going to make a rock and roll album. She does that. Then she says yes. State of Tennessee offers to put her up a statue about her. And she's like, use the money on the people who need it in this state. You don't need a statue of me. And then she sings and that's great. But like her whole book program and then the fact that her Dollywood, the theme park.
Yeah.
I believe they offer college scholarships for people who are there. And I think that she is really a woman. Somebody once asked her, I love this. At least this is what I read, well, Dolly, are you a feminist? She's like, honey, I was too busy being poor to be a feminist. But what I love about her is that her very life opened up that industry for women. So it wasn't about parroting an ideology. It was simply who she was.
Well, I saw recently her testament to her husband and how important he was. And he says, I'll never go to one of these galas or anything with you. That's not who I am. And she loved him for who he was, just for who he was.
Yeah. And he loved her for the same.
Exactly.
She traveled all over and was hardly ever, who knows what their home life was like, but he was home doing whatever and she was doing her thing. And they were that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Last question.
Mm.
all right. Here's the
Sum it all up with your words of wisdom. Go ahead, Ken.
what quote do you live by?
Until your subconscious becomes conscious, it will rule your life and you will call it fate. Carl Jung.
God bless you. Robbie, you're awesome.
You
We
guys are the best.
So we want you to enjoy the followership that will happen from the book and also from the show. Are there any channels, any way to reach you, follow you, celebrate you?
Well, thank you for that. Yes, I am on LinkedIn. I will have to send you my who's a what's it's for that because I didn't do that prior. Yeah.
That's fine. Yeah, it's just a little QR code that'll guide them to where they can either connect or celebrate or follow you. All right.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. It's been a pleasure. I appreciate y'all thinking of me.
Yeah, what a robust show, Brian. You got to have these shows a little earlier when I'm ready for them. My goodness,
I know. I told you
afternoon
she's a
show.
powerhouse.
I'll work on being more succinct.
No,
And
you did great because the non-succinct, honestly, really bridged the amount of conversation we can have in a future podcast if you want.
we love it. But thank you all both
Thank
very
you.
much. All right, have a good day. Bye-bye. Okay, bye. Ooh, I'm gonna hit